all my side and on behalf of my team, Fabulous webinar series. There is two announcements I already told. One, please, all are requested, all the parties are requested to mute all the audio and video. After completion of the presentation, one by one, they can raise the hands and question and answer section will be there. Till such time there is not anything is there, they can put in the chat box, then she will answer as and required. Also, I welcome Mrs. Kartika Ashok, advocate, who is going to present the presentation on the topic of outlook on public health. That is, it is not on public health, but the outlook on public health in the law and practice in India. That is the chapter which she is going to talk. She is a practicing advocate in High Court as well as a civil court in the past more than 18 years. She is also a standing counsel for the Chennai Corporation as well as the panel counsel for the Indian Bank also. Apart from the profession, she is also spent a lot of time for the to social and cultural activities also. We are delighted here to have here and to have the presentation in this evening. I welcome her to start the presentation. Over to Kartika Ashok.
Thank you, sir.
You can start.
Good evening and welcome all. Am I audible to all?
Yes, yes.
First of all, I pray to God for all our wellness and greetings to the team organizers. The topic today is the choice of the situation, most particularly the prevailing situation. On seeing the topic in the invite, all my friends had a doubt whether it is the topic on the health alone, it is a topic on the prevailing epidemic or the pandemic situation now. So if that is the thought, no, not at all. So this is the topic, how it is going to be discussed on how the public health that is in practice in India are based on the laws from the British colonial year to the present year. So now, to start with, I'll read the quote. Give people what they need: food, medicine, clean air, pure water, pleasant home to live in, less hours of work, more hours of leisure. Don't ask who deserves this. Every human being deserves this. These lines emphasize on the rights of the human beings and the duties of the state. That does not exclude the duties on the people. Even we do have certain duties. So now, the Public Health Act, the public health can have no legal definition. So it is a science of protecting the people and improving the health of them and their communities. It has two goals. One is to prevent the diseases and the other is to improve and promote the health. Now one of you or some of you may have the question as to when it is science, what is the role of law in it? There are some differences. What is the role of law in it? The main goal of the government is to enact laws, and with the appropriate laws, there has to be a preservation of the public health. Now we could understand what is the significance of law and what are all its role. Coming to globally, there are several countries who and where these public health acts and enactments are in force. We are now particular about India, and the respective states, they will take care of their issues. Now coming to the discussion, how India has taken a lead and how we have traveled in legislating the enactments relating to the public health. So now for this, we have to travel to the years, centuries past. In the year during the year 1890s, there had been a pandemic or epidemic situation due to the outbreak of bubonic plague in Bombay Presidency. That time the British India had came out with an enactment called the Epidemic Disease Act 1897. So coming into the aspects of this act, it is a very short act actually. Let me go into the act. So it has, all of us know the short first section reads about the short title and the extent. The regulations as to the dangerous epidemic disease. And section 2A, that is the insertion later on, which gives, actually this section 2 reads, the power to the state, which empowers the state to enact new regulations or any ordinances or any guidelines with regard to the prevention or to handle or task to how to task the epidemic situations. This, and later on 2A was inserted, where the central government was given with the powers to deal with the immigration check alone. So this will have a check on the airports and the ports. Next comes the section 3, penalty section. You all know how we disregard to the act, there will be a penalty classes are given. The next comes is the section 4, protection of persons acting under the act. In this, I would like to give 2 pieces of information with respect to this act. This is all a piece of information. In this, during the year 1897, Bal Gangadhar Tilak was arrested in this act, under the act, by a special regulation. So why? So in his publications, in publication like Kesari and the other things, he in Marathis, he published that the British had not handled the epidemic situation. So for the admonishing the British India, the authorities, he had been imprisoned for 18 months. The other comes, so all these days, even in the present day, this Epidemic Disease Act is in force. So all along, even during the smallpox vaccine, those days, and the other epidemic diseases, so we have crossed around 100 years ago. Even now, this act is in force. But how fast and how these acts are in implementation? Very recently, during this pandemic situation, this act, based on this act, there was an ordinance passed by the central government of India. So why, on what reasons? You have come across this Simon's case, Dr. Simon's case, and some atrocities against the police officers, in the state of Punjab. In the case, the central government came up with an ordinance promulgated in this first week of June, that is on 6th. But what does it say? It gives punishes a person who commits or offense against causing offences against the police authorities or the public health officers. So this is all a piece of information I'm giving. But you may ask, the central government has got, as I said, section 2A of the Central Government Act, this Epidemic Diseases Act says that the central government has got only the check with the immigration. This aspect, if some aggrieved person comes with a issue or comes without with the grievances, it has to put to a test whether this ordinance will stand. And you may ask a question whether this ordinance extends to the further period of years. No, because this ordinance is passed under this Epidemic Act, so which is restricted to the period of epidemic only, epidemic situation. So it may not cross the period after the epidemic. Then after this epidemic, this Epidemic Diseases Act, first we need to be very proud. The state of Madras, which came with an enactment for the public health called the Public Health Act 1939. So you may say how the Madras President says how the state has enacted, why not the central? So you all, most of us will be knowing the British, even in the British setup, we had the federal setup of government. So we were governed from the 1858, we were governed by the Government of India Acts. From those days, we are having the federal setup, and this public health and this part of the public health and the human health and this subject is given to the states. So we are very proud that the Tamil Nadu, that is the then called Madras, had come out with an act called 1939. So now you going into this act, I would read the first by the chapter alone, not on the sections, because it is a bigger act than the Epidemic Disease Act. So which may consist of above 100 sections. So I'll go with the chapters. Chapter 2 deals with the appointment of authorities and constitution of board. Whether this board is constituted or not, we will look into this aspect a little later. Chapter 3, supply of water. Here, more particularly, section 17 says, the municipality, the local authority to provide water, that to a potable water. And section 4 says drainage. Here it is with regard to the maintenance of the drainage. And this chapter 5, sanitary conveniences. Here the act obligates to the public officers to maintain and to provide the sanitary conveniences. That is, we have, whether it is right or not, that it has to be dealt in later. The act provided and it obligated the state to make a public conveniences, latrines, all over the state and wherever the requirements arises. And the next is the infectious. Chapter 7 deals with the infectious diseases. So like what we are meeting now, the pandemic situation, epidemic situation, outburst of some malaria, cholera, like that. So during that time, the government will notify the diseases and what exactly the prevailing situation. These are all reflected in the act. How the government officials will declare that it is a notified disease, and the malls are, even the groupings are to be avoided, like that, this shutting of the public places, and prevention of movement, traffic movement, prevention of people coming out, and lockdowns. All these situations, long ago, before 100 years, they have got into these acts, and the British India had formulated. So the next comes it is chapter 9, which reads on the mosquito control. Here also, it is see how it is in a sarcasm or in as a piecemeal information I can give. The mosquito control in the year 1939 itself they have come, and even now the survey says out of the diseases, the top 10 stands as the mosquito causing diseases which cause the fatalities in the all over the, globally. So how the enactment had given importance to the mosquito control. Even now you will be seeing the desilting of mosquitoes every now and during the winter seasons. The corporation, the municipal people will come on and desilting the mosquitoes. So these are all the enactments that helped us, and not it is on the practice. It is all by the act, and by the act the municipalities are acting. So the next chapter 10, sanitation in buildings. So that is without the sanitation or without the drainage, any building should not be constructed. That is a prohibitionary act. So now what is the, here in this act, what is the role of the government? So the government empowers or delegates its power, of functioning to the municipal authorities or the local authorities. Just having a superintending power. So it is just monitor the local authorities and how. And this could be connected to our constitution that we will deal little later. So now, under the act, so can we say, and now we could slowly and gradually learn, could have understood what this means public health. So can we say public health is equivalent to the healthy public? Can anyone say no? Public health and healthy public. So in both the columns, the words public and public, health and health may have the semblance of one and the same, but it is not at all. Public health is something more that we have as a right, and the state owes us a duty, and we also at the same time need to maintain a duty on it. So do you have these? And now going into my questions of sessions later on. Now parallelly, this 1939 Act we have brushed aside, and parallelly the municipal corporations during the British India had the municipal acts also. For instance, Chennai Corporation Act 1919, which is the Pioneer Act. So that also dealt with the water provision, drainage provisions, everything. But all these sections, whatever we say, provisos, so does it give a right, or does it give a public health, does it give an improvement? We can say that no. Why? Because it deals more on the public safety, not on the public health. I'm not bothering the legislation now to enact now in the present situation, but it needs some improvisation on the public health. Public health has a broader meaning. So the meaning is the preventing of diseases, improving the health, along with the health care. That is more important. Now, we have crossed 1939 Act. So now coming to the global situation, in the year 1948, the UN Charter declared this public health or the human health as a human right. In the 1948, it had been declared as human right. Now, what happened? So because of this, the UN in its it has created an agency called World Health Organization, that is called WHO. So what it had normally it would seem the WHO is it can be termed as Magna Carta of health. So it had designed the programs. It is the functions are like that. It will design the programs. It will recommend the states. And what is its primary function? To cooperate all the international members to improving the health. That is the only object, and that is the primemost function of the WHO. So whether this WHO is connected to the 1939 Act, yes, definitely, because as I said earlier, Section 2, that is Chapter 2, dealt with the appointment of the authorities, and the recommendation board needs to be constituted. So this 1939 Act, which recommended for the constitution of a recommending board, had been now it is not it has now become not mandatory, because who is there to monitor all and to give us the programs, to stimulate the schemes, to give us all the functions, and mainly the duty of the WHO is to do a campaigning. If suppose a vaccination, even in the prevailing situation, it deals how the it mainly deals with the cooperation and on the medicines and on the research work. So these are all the functions main, though the article says 22 functions, but I have read it around 4 to 5 duties of the WHO, that it is doing it on its role. Now, side by side, before going into the other developments, so could we not say that Indian Penal Code had all these public health related issues, and had it not, it has its provisions of punishment to the public. So let me go into that. So though it relates directly to the public health, it improves, and it is just here penalizing provisions, it is a policing provisions. It has no any improvement on the public health. So let me go, chapter 14 of the IPC deals with the public health and its convenience and safeties. So let me read out these sections. Section 269. So it may take some time, but you need to know what all these sections read. Section 269 punishes any person who unlawfully and negligently does any act which is in and which he knows and has a reason to believe to be likely to spread the infections of any diseases dangerous to life. So this is, then he will be imprisoned and he will be found offensive. In section 270, so it is slightly a better section in which the malignant act likely to spread infections. Here we could see the difference between 269 and 270. 269 269 says it is if suppose the offense is caused on the negligence or the carelessness. Here 270 says the malignant or malicious act. So here the punishment is homicide. For the homicide, it has to, it dealt like. And section 272, punishment for adulteration of food. Section 273, punishment for selling food and drink which has become noxious or unfit. Section 274, punishment for adulteration of drugs. Section 276, punishment for sale of expired drugs. Section 277, punishment for fouling water of public spring. Section 278 punishes any person who voluntarily vitiates the atmosphere. Section 284 punishes the person in possession of poisonous substances so as to endanger human life. And the section 304 even now we are using that punishment for causing death by rash and negligence act of the person. So this act came in the year 1860. So until the further developments, these were in use actually. So now why it is not being used? It is not being, it has gone into the dormancy. So it is because of the people, tolerance of the people and their lack of awareness. So now then how we develop our duties towards the state on these issues. It has become very negligent act, and due to our attitude, these act has become more decriminalized, so which does not require any attendance by the authorities or by the public or by the legislatures. So this had created a bad situation. Now now it has developed into an environmental laws. So this 1860 enactment, it has not given any improvement at all. So it has gone to sleep actually. Now coming into the CRPC, section 133 is concerned with the health, that on report from public officer that a trade or occupation, etc., any goods injurious to health is in occupation, the magistrate may order the person to desist from carrying on that trade or possession of that noxious or abstainable substances. So these are all the acts. Pre-independence had it was much effective than the post-independence. So it was in use up to the year of our constitution 1950. So now post-independence. So we could say when the people learned about all these rights and other things that we are going to see in a shorter while. So coming to the constitution. So as I said, post-independence, the law is very strong on the public health. No, even that aspect we need to see. So our constitution has laid a strong, a basement by giving us guarantees and directive policies. Guarantees of right and directive policies, which deals in the article, we'll go to the sorry. So fundamental rights are dealt in part 3 of the Constitution, and directive principles are dealt in part 4 of the Constitution. So leaving apart this fundamental rights and obligations, Article 243 G and 243 W, just like what I said in the Public Health Act, it gives all the functions are given to the local authorities. Here which reads Article 243 G and 243 W gives the functions of scheming and functions of on the public health are given and empowered and vested with the local body authorities. that is in 243G, so which is for the panchayats, which in even in the schedule, 11th schedule, which reads at the item 6 will give which reads the public health, and in that is item 23 and 243W for that 12th schedule. So in that item 23 reads for the public health. So now we have seen in where all these public health have been touched by the constitution. So then the articles, what now we are going to deal is on the fundamental rights, the articles that deal with fundamental rights and the directive principles. With regard to the fundamental rights, we are about to see here Article 14, Article 21, 23 and 24. And with regard to the directive principles, we are to see Article 47 and 48. And now, coming to the Article 14, it is a right to equality. And you may question, what is the connection between the equality and the health? Now, for this, I may not go and give an explanation because the Supreme Court, in a case of LIC of India, had given a direct answer to this question. Let me read out. The stated answer is given by the Apex Court in the case of LIC of India versus Consumer Education and Research Center, where the LIC introduced a scheme for the life insurance for the government servants alone. So here, the Supreme Court interfered and gave us the remedy in general, which reads, the classification based on employment affects the unorganized or self-employment sectors and directed for the application of equality principle whenever the health facilities are provided by the government. Article, so from this is the very root of the equality touches with the health. Even now, in the prevailing situation, we could see no man is deprived of his rights of equality. So if I am to treat in the hospital of my wish, I can go ahead. So this is the equality principles are coming in our hand and helping us as a right. And it is our right and we have a demand on it. So now going on to the Article 21. So it is a right to life. Is it merely a right to life? So going before into the aspects how it relates to the public health, I need just a reading of the article. The article reads, no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by the law. Now coming into the, so now the word personal liberty that had developed into and it has seen various dimensions. So for this, first we had the A.K. Gopalan case. In that, the Supreme Court had a narrower interpretation of the word public liberty, personal liberty. Now, immediately after the emergency period, in the case of Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India, the expression personal liberty had got its wider meaning, and because of this, because of the expansive interpretation of the word, the more and more number of fundamental rights got into this right, that is particularly Article 21, which as a result of this case, the dormant article came into life. And next comes the landmark case, Francis Paroli case. Here, the Supreme Court had held the right to live with human dignity was included in article. And in the next, here, how the mental health and physical health are touched. We could see in Supreme Court, the Samtisar Builders versus Narayanan reported in 1991 SCC 520. Here, the Supreme Court has held The right to life under Article 21 would include the right of food, clothing, decent environment, and reasonable accommodation to live, which allows him to grow in all aspects, physically, mentally, and intellectually too. Now, coming to the result of this cases, which had given a wider meaning to our right to life, there from the various corners, numerous number of public interest litigations were filed. So out of which, so I would like to point out two cases. In ESC Limited versus Subhash Chandra Bose, reported in 1992, 1 SCC 441, the Supreme Court had held right to life includes protection of health and strength. So now almost this health aspect, that is the public health, the human health, had brought into the purview of fundamental rights. And the next is the landmark and the milestone case, where the Supreme Court, in the case of Consumer Education and Resource Center versus Union of India, reported in AR 1995 SC 636, it was held the right to health, medical aid to protect the health is a fundamental right. Now, very beginning I put a question whether public health and a healthy public is same or not. So now you could got the answer. Why? Public health is a wider scope than the healthy. If healthy public means I am healthy, I am well or not, that has to be looked into. Public health has got a wider meaning of medical health care. So that is the one of the prime most object that has to be taken into the public health. Those acts which cornered for the public safety alone and leaving apart the public health has to be jointly taken into. We need the public safety as well as the public health. So now coming into the Article 23, it prohibits trafficking in human beings, begging and forced labor. Now, just I'm saying the article and what it goes. In this article, the individuals are not alone protected from the state, but from private citizens as well. Here, the practice of the word trafficking in human beings, prohibition to the traffic in human beings, prohibits the practice of buying and selling humans, as it has a direct effect on the health of a human being, leading to the transmission of sexual diseases. So this word, this terming of this article paved way for the enactment of Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956. And in the same article, there's a word called forced labor. So it prohibits forced labor. No one can compel a person to do this work, or there cannot be any force. So this word gave way to the enactment of Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act 1970, Bonded Labor System Abolition Act 1976. So in this article, there is one very fortunate and right guaranteeing case law delivered by the Honorable Apex Court in Bunda Mukti Morcha versus Union of India, which dealt in the state of Punjab, where the stone quarry laborers were working without pure drinking water, conservancy and medical facilities, where the Supreme Court directed the state authorities to remove all those complaints and to provide the necessary facilities to them in accordance to that had been provided also. Next, coming to the Article 24, it puts a partial restriction on employment of child labor. So in this, the landmark case, MC Mehta case, I'm not saying about the Bhopal case. I'm saying about the MC Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu, reported in 1996, 6 SCC 756. It is famously called as Sivakasi fireworks case, where in this, the outcome of this case led to the eradication of child labor in toto. And the other labor legislations which came out of this article are Mines Act 1952, Plantation Labor Act 1951. Now, so these are all the rights that were guaranteed under these articles, where the Supreme Court has taken us to an elevation and it is keeping us safe with its protected hands. Now the state has also got its obligation. Under Article 47, what does it read? The article obligates the state to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living of its people and the improvement of public. Reading all this article together with Article 21, the Supreme Court in a very celebrated case had given a judgment. That case law is Vincent Panikkar Langura versus Union of India, reported in AR 1987 SC 990. It was held as the maintenance and improvement of public health have to be ranked high as they are indispensable to the very physical existence of the community. And in one another case, in Fazim Banga case, reported in AR 1996 SC 2426, it was held. It is the constitutional obligation of the state to provide adequate medical services to the people. And further it observed, providing adequate medical facilities to the people is an essential part of the obligation undertaken by the government in a welfare state. The government discharges this duty by running hospitals. This is most important that has to be taken into. Am I audible? Yes. The government discharges this duty by running hospitals and health centers to provide medical care to the persons. So is it not this case had taken us to a better position? Definitely. The Supreme, of us here or from the legal fraternity, we should feel proud that our Supreme Court has termed the Constitution and it has given a good shape on the rights and obligations of the state. Now coming to the Article 48, it obligates to protect and improve the environment. So this, everyone knows here which case I'm going to deal and which case I'm going to read out. So this MC Mehta case, that is the famous Bhopal case. This in the, where the Supreme Court has held. I'm touching only not on the environmental issues. I'm just reading out the lines of the public health related issues. Article 39E, 47 and 48A, this is the words of the Supreme Court, by themselves and collectively cast a duty on the state to secure the health of the people, improving the public health and protect and improve the environment. Now in the one another case, it is leaving alone the medical care and health care. The Supreme Court had gone one step forward and delivered a word by saying medicinal and toilet preparations are related to health. So by which we have a fundamental right of human health and it is a human right also. This is in case Darshan Lal versus State of Punjab, reported in AR 1979, Punjab 102. Then already we have seen Article 243, how the municipalities, local panchayats and local authorities are empowered and they have their own designs. In the present situation, Since I am in the Chennai Corporation, I know there is a family welfare department is concerning these issues, and they are taking care, and they go by the recommendations of the WHO. So now there is no need of the recommending committee as said by the Act 1939, the who takes care of the recommendations, and it gives the designs, and it gives the designs for the campaigning, it advises on the research, and everything is done. As I said, it is literally a magna carta of the health. Now, what is the development later on? It has because of this constitutional guarantees, the consumer protection laws came in. So here, how it relates to consumer law is definitely, it is very unfortunate. This medical negligence and medical services are included in the Consumer Protection Act. In my opinion, it should not have been. There should be a special act and special law that should govern the medical negligences. Because of the consumer, the patients cannot be treated as taking a service from the doctor. So it is a human health, it is a human right, and it is a fundamental right that is guaranteed by the Constitution. So it cannot merely said, I am a consumer under the medical services, and I have been neglected, and someone had done some negligence on me and my body. So that should not be the fact on, that should not have been the fate of the people in India. So it needs some corners of development. That should be, which we will see. So then coming to the environmental laws, many number of environment laws are there to preserve and protect the environment which were enacted safeguarding the public health. For in fact, I could have read out a section, if someone fouls water, steaming water, then there had been a punishment under the IPC, which has gone dormant now, but it had been active during the British period. We are, for our negligence and for our attitudes, we have left those IP policing provisions gone to the dormant. And now in the new enactments, we have all the Air Pollution Act, Noise Pollution, Environment, Water Body Act, which even in the Water Body Act is an outcome of the interference of the court. Truly speaking, it is an outcome of the, because here, not only in Tamil Nadu, all over India, there had been several encroachment, and there had been nasty things in the water. So all these were, we cannot say that it has put to an end, but some developments what we are seeing to remove the encroachments in the water bodies. And now, even now, the Indian Penal Code is in existence, and we can bring back those dead provisions back, and we can act on. We as an individual citizens, we can go ahead and we can lodge a complaint. If the police officer is not taking it, can be lodged before the magistrate, and we have to act on, and we should know the duties of the people, and we should act on it. And coming to the medical laws, there are several medical laws, and I'll read out. The Opium Act was passed in the year 1878. The Poisonous Act and the Dangerous Drugs Act were passed in 1919 and 1930 respectively. So these are all the very old acts during the period of British. In 1985, the Narcotic Drugs and the Psychotropic Substances Act was passed. This act repealed all the Opium Act and the Poisonous Act and the Dangerous Drugs Act. So now which prevails? So this is, all of us know, this Narcotic Drugs Act prohibits a person peddling with the drugs or dealing with the drugs, and even consuming of the drugs becomes an offense. The other acts which are in force relating to the medical aspect are Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940, Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisement Act 1954, Transplantation of Human Organs Act 1994, the Mental Health Act 1987. These are all the acts. It is merely like an IPC. So it is a policing provision, and it imposes duty on the people, and it imposes punishment for the offenders. So now coming to the conduct of the medical profession. So here by the Constitution, we have the gifts like Indian Medical Council Act 1956, Indian Medicine Central Council Act 1970, Indian Nursing Council Act 1947, Dentist Act 1948, Pharmacy Act 1948, Homeopathy Central Council Act 1973. These are all the acts which is in existence, and we ought to be. Why I am saying this, even before going into the preparation work for this article, I had no knowledge of this Homeopathy Central Act, Pharmacy Act, Dentist Act more particularly, which came in the year 1948. So it is a piece of information I am giving. But still the healthcare. Now coming can we conclude with all these acts? We are in a better position when we have a good healthcare? No. So my suggestion would be, and even an appeal it may be called. So here the medical insurances has to be a mandated thing. Why? Why? Because now, for instance, we'll take how the motor accident claims had gone its shape, because it has its act, and if it has its factors for the victimized persons, and the amount of compensation, though it comes out from the tortious law, it has got its shape from the constitution. So now, based on that, the motor accident claims tribunal is set up, and it is governed by that, and the victims are we cannot say the word benefit, but at least they have some remedies before that particular tribunals. But what about this medical negligences, and if someone have a grievance against the medical officer? So there should be a special court or a special tribunal that has to be constituted, and for the medical negligence, and making the mediclaim when the life insurance and the vehicle insurance and almost other insurances have been declared as a mandatory. Why not this medical insurance? Why it should be an optional thing to be done? It has to be a mandatory. So if these corners are touched, we can see some betterment in the this thing. So when it comes to the compensation also, if just before I said, like when we approach the consumer, because I am termed, if a patient is termed as a consumer under the Consumer Protection Act, then if I approach the Consumer Protection under the Consumer Protection Act, a consumer tribunal, so the maximum, all of us know the maximum amount what they give is 50,000 from 5,000. So in this, we cannot meet out the entire aspects, entire goals of the public health. The public health is not only the health of the public, it relates something more, which is called the public health care. So by the guarantees given by the Constitution, and by the shaping and by the interpretation of our honorable courts, we are having a better life. And I would appeal to the government, and I would appeal to the legislator, that some improvement has to be done through this webinar. So that's all. I hope that I have covered almost all the acts under the act, under the public health